Hello, loves, and welcome back, or welcome if you are new to my channel. Thanks for joining me. So, if you've never seen any of my videos, I will say that I do oftentimes add stuff to the screen. I add some scriptures, I add some pictures if I have real pictures and videos of what's going on, and I also add maybe some text of things that I either forgot to say or things that I wanted to add to give a better idea of what I was saying or to correct myself if I say something incorrectly on the screen. So, this video today will be about not falling for the counterfeit. We have I know the last few weeks were a little heavy, and I talked about a couple different things. If you want, you can go back and look at those videos. Thank you for watching those. I'm sorry for the heaviness of those, but this week will be much lighter. We're going to talk about don't fall for the counterfeit. This is actually going to be a twofold situation. So, I'm going to tell about my experience of God blessing me with a car, and then there was also a guy who ended up I'll get into the story and explain how the counterfeits came about. An example of this from the Bible is when Adam and Eve were told not to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And so the serpent convinced Eve to eat from the tree because she was missing out on something. Like he convinced her that God didn't want her to know something, or that he was trying to keep something from her. But God had already given them everything that they needed. And so they were human. Of course, they fell for the counterfeit in this situation. And them falling for that is now us living in the world that we live in, where we have all of this turmoil and all these different things that's going on. And when God gave it to them, he adds no sorrow to it. And so everything that they had was abundance, and it was beautiful and everything. And then now, unfortunately, because she fell for or because they both actually fell for the counterfeit, they now, they have to deal with the things that we're dealing with in the world today. And so in this situation still kind of applies in today's time, because a lot of times God can show us something, and then the enemy will come and he'll bring something to us that looks and seems very similar to what God said. And so a lot of times we'll fall for that, thinking that, oh, I can get this thing that God told me that I can have. And we choose to go through the counterfeit instead of going through what God has for us. So in my situation, um, I was basically, this actually kind of took, the transformation of like getting up to that point was, it kind of started from a few years prior. I was blessed with a car. I had got a new job. I was blessed with the car. I ended up loving this car. This car was like my best friend. I was homeless in it for several months. I drove to all my work events and my gigs and all these different things in this car. I love this car. I had it for about 4 years. On that fourth year, the car was I was driving Uber in Atlanta, Georgia, and my car started to have some problems. And I was like, oh no, like what's going on with my car? This car was, like I said, my best friend had, like, it was fully loaded. It was just a beautiful car. I really loved the car. So anyway, I'm driving Uber, and all of a sudden my car starts to have some issues. So I take it to the shop to get it checked out. I take it to it was a Nissan. And so I take it to Nissan dealership to get it checked out. And basically they come back and they say that the car is having transmission issues. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do? Because I only have a year. I had 1 year left to pay off the car, and then the car would have been mine. But then also, like, I didn't have the money to pay for a new transmission, and I also didn't have even they were saying that I had to pay a fee to get the car out for the diagnostic, and then that I needed to get the transmission immediately because the car. And so I was driving Uber to get money, and now I can't drive Uber to get the money, and so I have no money to get my car fixed. And so what they did was, people that work at a car dealership. So they convinced me to purchase a new car. It was, this situation was such a headache for me because I did not want a new car. I was fighting the whole time that I was there that day because I did not want a new car. So they got me into it was in the year of 2018 when this was happening. And so they got me into a 2018. It only had 26 miles on it. It's a brand new car. I wanted my old car. I don't want a new car. I don't want a new car. No, I don't want any of that. I want my old car, right? And so eventually, I was there for 8 hours while they're trying to convince me and get everything switched over for me to get into this new car. And at the time, I'm not realizing why I needed this new car. I just wanted to stick with what I knew. I wanted to stick with what I love. I love my old car. I want to keep her. I don't want to let her go. And so there was another car there. There was also the one of the other reasons that I didn't want that particular car, even though it was brand new, is because it was white. I did not want a white car. I could have settled for a lot of different colors, but I did not want a white car. If I'm being honest. And then also, it did not have automatic locks and doors. This is a 2018 in 2018, and the car is purposely made without automatic locks and doors. So I am just like, I cannot believe that they don't have automatic locks and doors. I don't want this car. I want my car. It didn't have a sunroof. It didn't. So all of these different things that I had grown accustomed to from my old car. Now this car, it's a better car, but it doesn't have some of the same things. It wasn't fully loaded. It wasn't, so yes, I was having a moment of ungratefulness, and I apologize for that because the car actually it ended up being such a better car to have, and I ended up being eventually seeing how God blessed me with that car, and how, even though against, like, I really did not want the car. I mean, I was fighting all day trying not to get this car. So anyway, I get the car, and a few months later, I end up getting the job as a flight attendant. Now, this is in 2018. In the beginning of 2019, I end up getting the job as a flight attendant, and I didn't know that I was going to get this job. And so the car that I now was blessed with, I end up driving that car from Georgia to Chicago, Illinois. And so that's where I end up getting based. And so the car actually was a blessing because my old car that I didn't want to let go of, it had so many miles and so much on it that it could no longer keep up with where God was getting ready to send me. And so I ended up I ended up getting the I ended up driving to Chicago, but before that, I ended up having to move the car around a few times because I went to training. I was there for a while, and then I ended up going to eventually moving to Chicago. And during this time, I had gotten behind on my payments because, as much as I love my job, it does not pay as well as it could, and that kind of causes some issues for a lot of people with finances. And so I was not able to keep up on my car note. I also was paying two rents because I was paying my rent in Atlanta, Georgia, and then I was also paying rent in Chicago, Illinois, for the place that I had to stay while I was working, and I still had my apartment in Atlanta. So with paying all of that and trying to pay my car note, of course, my car note started to fall behind. And so it got to the point where they were trying to repossess my car. And I was just like, oh my gosh, my car's going to get repossessed. But I feel like God protected me from the repossession in the fact that during that time is when they came to look for the car is when I was actually going off to training. I was moving to a different state, and so they weren't able to find the car. I didn't have to purposely hide the car. I didn't even have anywhere to purposely hide the car. I didn't try to purposely hide the car. It just so happened that the time frame of when it happened is what helped me to they couldn't find my car when they were looking for it. So anyway, they some couple months passed by, and I'm like, okay, I can't afford my car note again. They're already looking for it now. I think they know that I'm in Chicago. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to, my car to get taken. And so I'm like, I don't know what else to do. And so this was kind of like, how in the Bible, like Abraham has to basically be willing to sacrifice Isaac. God will sometimes give us that moment where it's like, what is your Isaac? What is your idol? What is the thing that you prayed for that now God is saying, I gave it to you. Are you willing to give it back to me? And so I had to go through a series of events where I was just like, so sad, and I was crying. I'm just like, I don't know what to do. Like, I can't do anything else. And at first I was just really trying to figure out any type of way that I could to be able to, pay my car notes and my car wouldn't get taken. And then it was just like I came to a moment where I was just like, you know what? Like, God, you gave it to me. If you want to take it back, I can't do anything about it. I give this to you. Like, I know you'll work it out, even if you take it back. I know, like, I'm able to catch the train to get to work. I don't stay that far from the airport. And I'm just like, as much as I don't want a repossession on my name, I don't want to owe all that money and all the other things. I know that you will still take care of me and you will still provide for me. And so once I came to that, like that moment of just like surrender, like, here, Lord, you gave it to me, you can have it back. Then God worked it out to where now I didn't have, it didn't get taken. And so what happened was basically I had met one of my good friends now, but at the time we had just met a few months prior in training. And I was like, I don't know what else to do. And then I felt like I should ask her for to borrow the money. And I'm like, Lord, I don't want to ask this. I don't know her that well to be asking her to borrow this amount of money. But I was like, okay, I went through, prayed and everything like that. And so I asked her to borrow the money, and she said yes. And I was like, wow. And so anyway, I was able to pay my car note. And then um, I think right before that or right after that, I end up parking in the wrong spot in Chicago, and they towed my car. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I had to pay like $300 or $400 for that. And it was money that I didn't have to be paying for that because I had other stuff that I was still paying for. Like I said, I was still paying the rent and the other bills, utilities and all that stuff in Atlanta. Plus I was paying for the place that I was in now, and then food and all the other things that come along with life. So anyway, I was able to pay, got my car back, and now, my car is in good standing. So fast forward, I have this car for a duration of 3 years. So when I first went to the car dealership, I really, really wanted a black car. I wanted a truck, or the SUV truck. So I wanted a Rogue because I like Nissan. And so I wanted a Rogue, and there was one on the lot, but of course I couldn't afford it. The good thing about me getting, well, there was another car there. It was an Altima. It was black. It was fully loaded. It was, what I'm saying, like, it was really nice. And I was like, okay, well, I want that car instead. And I ended up getting this white Nissan Versa. And thank God it was not a hatchback because, like I said, I didn't want to be ungrateful, but it would have been much harder to accept that blessing of a hatchback car because that's not what I was wanting at all. But this other Nissan that I had got, even though it looked like it was smaller, the inside has so much space in this car. The trunk has so much space. And one of the good things was that the car was no longer low to the ground. So my other car was very low to the ground. My Altima, I loved it, but it was low to the ground, and it caused me a lot of back pain and stuff as I was traveling different places. And as I was driving Uber, I was in my car for long periods of time, 8 to 10 hours, sometimes a day. And so it was causing me a lot of back pain. And then also when you would drive up on a hill, if you have an Altima or if you've been in one, like it was a 2011 Nissan Altima, and it would scrape when I'm trying to go into like a parking lot or something if it has a little hill there. And so I was like, okay, well, this car is not gonna, I was like, okay, this new car no longer did that. And so it really helped that the new car no longer did that because it was higher up off the ground. And even though my Altima was bigger than the Versa actually had quite a bit of space in it. And so I stay in Chicago for the, um, well, I stayed in Chicago for 2 years, but I had the car for 3 years. And eventually I get transferred to Dallas for my job. And so I moved down to Dallas. I pack my Versa with all of my belongings and everything that I had there in Chicago with me, which was quite a bit of stuff. I was able to fit into this Versa. If I would have had my Altima, I could have fit it in there, but um the car itself was no longer able to do those long rides that I had been doing. Prior to that, I had made several long rides from Wisconsin to Georgia to Illinois to wherever I was going. But now the car was no longer able to keep up with that. And so this new car, I had no problems. It was in great condition. Like I said, I was the first owner of it. And so it was a great car. And I was able to pack everything in there. One good thing about it is that get to I didn't get the Rogue because I the Rogue is not it was not I didn't realize at the time, but the Rogue was not going to be able to handle the amount of stuff that I had because I was able to put so much stuff in the trunk and in the rest of the car. And the Rogue, because it does have like the hatchback type of thing, even though it's bigger, it's a truck, but I have the actual like the Rogue Sport, and so it's actually smaller, but it does not fit as near as much as the actual um, Versa fit. And so anyway, I moved down to Dallas. I'm grateful. I'm like, okay, I could fit everything that I need. Of course, that was a 16-hour flight, a 16-hour ride. So I was not able to drive, back and forth to be able to move the stuff. I had to, whatever I could fit in there is whatever I could take. And so I had to fit everything in there at once. And I had to drive down to Dallas. So I get down to Dallas and some time passes. The car is, still doing well. I'm using it, going to work, doing whatever I have to do. And then eventually I go through a series of events. I end up getting COVID. It ends up being really bad. I'm staying in a flight attendant housing, which has lots of different flight attendants and pilots in it. It's called a crash pad. And so I'm staying in the crash pad, but then the crash pad, when I get sick with COVID, I get kicked out of the crash pad. And at first, I'm like going through so much because I literally, like, COVID was so bad that I almost died. Like, I'm on oxygen. I'm, dealing with all these symptoms that I never had prior to COVID. But God worked it out because what the enemy meant for evil, God works it out for our good. And so I basically ended up getting moved to a new crash pad that didn't have it had the same capacity for the same amount of people, but it didn't have the same amount of people in there. And so in that crash pad, I was able to heal. I was able to, um, you know, um, get a lot more rest than I was able to get in the other crash pad because after having COVID, I was off for 3 months total, and I had to like rest and recuperate and everything like that and heal. And so from moving to that new crash pad, I end up going to the store in that area because now I'm in a whole different area, a whole different town in Dallas. Go to the store and I meet a guy there. And so at the store, the guy comes up, he introduces himself, we talk, we exchange numbers, and we go out on a date eventually. And then from that, we end up kind of dating for the next about 3 months or so. And so over that time, he seems like a good, nice guy. I'm seeing him like in between my trips whenever I come back from my trips and stuff. And, we're talking here and there and, everything like that. And it just seems like he's a pretty good candidate. He's, saying that he's looking for a marriage and, just a lot of different things that it seemed like we aligned in a lot of different ways. But there were a couple ways that it seemed like we didn't really align. And he was from another um, area. I won't say where he's from, but he wasn't from the U.S. And so there were some cultural differences, but then there was also some differences in just like um he just was very methodical. He was very like very kind of opposite of like how I am and who I am. But it was like it kind of worked, but then it was like I kind of felt like I don't know. I don't know if this is the person that I could see myself being with for the rest of my life because I saw a lot of differences that we were opposite. He may not have seen them because I just feel like I wasn't able to be my full self around him because I wanted to make sure that we, got along well. And I just felt like I just wasn't, I don't know if he would have accepted or if he would have understood like who I am and how I am and everything like that. So anyway, eventually I decided, I don't know. And so because I don't know, I don't think that this is from God. And so I'm like, I'm going to go ahead and just let him go. And so I decided that I was going to break it off with him. And all right, sorry, a little break real quick. I'm so sorry. If you haven't seen any of my other videos, then I move around a lot because I'm working. Got to get the videos done in between work. So I apologize for the switch in everything. But yes, so I'm just trying to get them done in between work. Had to cut off and I'm starting again. Forgive me. And if you've been here before, then you've seen the ghetto trying to get it together. Okay. All right. So, where I left off with the story, so I break it off with him. But before I do that, a few weeks or maybe even a month before I decide to break it off with him, I feel like I don't know, for some reason, it's like this is 3 years later. I have the white Versa, and I start feeling like I just want a new car. And so I I just start searching around trying to figure out if I was to get a new car, what would I do? And so I'm like, well, he's the male figure that I know right now. Let me ask him. So I happened to ask him about if I was to get a car, how would I go about doing it and everything like that. So he tells me, well, you need to make sure that you are buying the car outright, just like paying money, cash money for it, and then you'll get the car cheaper. And then it also turns out that he is an investment banker. So I'm like, okay, well, it ends up, he actually writes the loan, or he used to write loans for people to get cars. So I'm like, oh, that's perfect. So he is helping me look online to find the car that I am wanting. And we're just looking. I don't really have any funds or anything for it. It's just a thought that came to my head that, oh, I want to start looking into seeing how much it would be to if I was to trade in my car and get a new car. And so he helps me look for the car. And so he knows the exact kind of car that I'm looking for. And so now back to I break it off with him and I just send him a long message and I just basically told him what was going on and how I was feeling. He did not respond. So then a few weeks later, I think about maybe 3 weeks later, maybe a month or so, I have a dream. Now I'm no longer looking for a new car because now I've had COVID. It's been a few months and stuff since all this stuff has happened. And well, I actually had COVID before I met him, but I, I had COVID before I met him, so I don't know. But I don't know. Somehow I was looking for a car, and then whenever everything kind of started happening, and life started happening, I was like, okay, I can't afford to be looking for a new car anymore, so I just kind of stopped looking for the car. So then a couple weeks passed by, and I'm asleep, and I have a dream, and I see this car sitting in the driveway of the first like crash pad that I used to stay in. And I'm like, wow, I'm going to get a new car. And I'm like, God just showed me a new car. I'm going to get it. And I'm like, well, that's weird because I'm not even looking for a car at this time. I'm not even thinking about a car. And then on top of that, I have no money in the bank to get a car because right now I'm trying to focus on getting a place so that I can get a place of my own and no longer have to stay in the crash pads or with family members. So I wake up from the dream and I see a text message from the guy that I broke it off with. And he says, my friend has the car that you want, and he has it for a really good deal. He tells me the whole spiel and everything, and I'm like, oh. And so he sends me pictures. It's the exact same car. It's actually the exact same car that I have right now. And it was one difference though. The one difference was that it was a different color than what I saw in my dream. And I'm not, going to be like, if it was really sent from God, then I don't care what color it is, because like, okay, so anyway, he offered to purchase the car for me. And I told him, no, you don't have to do that. And so we had a conversation about the car, and then we went on and we talked, and we basically, I just told him, I was like, you don't have to do that. I actually sat there for about 3 hours waiting on the Lord that morning. And I was like, Lord, can I accept this car from him? Like, I don't know. Am I able to accept this car from him? And so I just didn't really feel like I heard like a clear no or yes or anything like that. But God kind of allowed me to see it on my own, because what happened was I started to have a conversation with him, and I asked him, I said, okay, so how is this going to work? Like, I started trying to ask questions. How is it going to work? Is it going to be in your name? Is it going to be my name? All of these different things. And he started getting angry. And all this time that I had dated him prior to this, I had never seen or heard him angry, because he was always very mellow, very calm, but we hadn't really had any real situations for it to really show his temperament, I guess. And so he starts kind of getting upset that I'm asking him questions. He just wants me to just accept the car. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to be able to just accept it. I'm like, I just want to know, because I wanted to do it myself. I wanted to like build on my credit and, just things like that. And so basically, long story short, he ends up, like, I tell him that I just want to speak to the person who is in charge. And I'm like, okay, can I just speak to them, and then they can I can basically see if I want to get the car from them, and from the dealership. And so I speak to the person. He basically I feel like he kind of told him to like give me a hard time, to like make it seem like it would be harder than what it was. I don't know, but he told me it would be a higher price. He told me that, my credit was not going to help me to get the car, and just all kinds of different things like this. So I was like, okay, I need to just sleep on it. I need to just take some time to think about it. And so basically the guy was kind of just rushing me, like the guy at the car dealership. And I was like, no, I need to like just take some time to think about it, because I was thinking like, okay, I need to pray about this. I need to really see like, okay, is this really the Lord telling me this? Because at this time I felt like, I'm more focused on trying to get my own place. I'm healing from COVID. It's been a few months. I'm just returning to work. I'm not really worried about getting a car right now. And it really was just a thought until I saw the dream. And in the dream, God actually revealed that I would get the car by November 6th. And I believe the date, I'll have to look in my phone and see, but I believe the date of this dream was like maybe October 26th or something like that, October 29th, something like that, at the end of October. So it was really like a week in between, like, of me before I was supposed to get this car. And I'm thinking like, Lord, how am I supposed to get this car when I have no money? I'm not even, in a position to get a car. And, and so, but I knew what God had showed me. And so anyway, I talked to him, we kind of get into a little argument, because it's like we're not seeing eye to eye. He ends up hanging up the phone on me. So of course I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad I didn't get the car from him, because, if what's going to happen if I leave on my trip and I come back and, the car's not there, or like, is this a way for him to control me? I also asked myself, what do you want in return for this? And he kept saying nothing. And I'm like, you want, like, it has to be something that you're looking for in return, because even if it's just a relationship for us to be together, like that's that's something that you're looking for. And at this point, I had decided that I no longer want to be with him. So it doesn't matter. Like, I don't want the car, and then now I have to be with you, or I owe you something. And so he kept telling me like, oh, you don't owe me anything. I just want to buy it for you. I just really care about you, and I want to, get this for you because I know you can't afford it, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, no, like something seems like it's, it seems like it's something more. So then as I keep talking to him, like I say, he kind of gets frustrated, and then he ends up hanging up the phone on me. But then he calls me back within like a few days, and he's like, hey, I bought the car for you. Like, I want you to come over and test drive it. And I'm like, why would you do that? Like, I told you I didn't want you to buy the car. And he's like, can you just come over and test drive it? Like, just see if you like it and just test drive it. And I'm thinking like, nah, I can't go over there. Cause if I go over there, like, I'm not gonna be able to leave without this car. Like, once you test drive a car, like, who leaving without the car? So then I tell him like, no, I don't think I should. And so he basically, we get into like a heated discussion, and he's just basically like, I basically tell him like, I don't think that I can accept it. Like, I appreciate you, but I just would rather wait on the Lord. And then I also would rather do it myself. And so he basically gets upset, and he's like, oh, you're acting like you're holier than thou. Like, you can't accept a car, but there's women who would jump from my third story porch for $1,000, and this costs way more than that, and you're acting like you can't accept it. And so, like, some of his true colors are starting to come out. He's starting to be angry and stuff, and I'm just like, okay, like, who is this person? Because I haven't spoke to this person. I haven't experienced this person. So he gets upset, he hangs up on me again, and I'm like, okay, whatever, I'm not going to worry about it. So because I've seen the dream, and because I know how God works, or how he's worked in previous times in my life, I said, okay, let me look into like my options of like getting a car. So I end up calling, I end up getting approved for a loan. I end up all within these next couple of days, because I'm like, okay, God told me I'm getting a car. Let me just do the work and try to see if I'm going to be able to get the car. And so um, I call, I end up getting approved for a loan. And then I start going to car dealerships, and I start looking around for cars, and I start looking online. And I end up finding the car that I really, really liked. My car that I had, my new, well, it was no longer new, it was 3 years old now, but my 2018 Nissan Versa that I had, the the car dealerships were actually offering to pay more than what I had actually paid for the car, because it was during COVID. And so they were paying more. And then I had a rebate on the car. And then it was just, so I was actually going to get like 1,000 something more back from the payment of the car than what I had actually paid for a brand new car. And so that was going to go towards my new car. And so the bad part about that is like my new car, which was a used car, it actually ended up costing more than what it had cost pre-COVID. But anyway, so I don't talk to him for, the next week or so. I'm looking around for the car. And so I find this car. I'm like, oh yeah, this is perfect one. It has a panoramic sunroof. It's fully loaded. It has this, it has that. It's got the 360. It's got all of this stuff. I'm like, yes, I want this car. And something happened where either the car may have been over the amount I got approved for, or with the taxes and the fees and the interest and stuff, it was going to be over what I got approved for, or I just didn't want to overextend myself, like, because the payments I think were going to be higher as well. So it's like, with the car that I ended up getting, the payments ended up being the same amount as my car, but I'll get into that. So anyway, I saw this car and I'm like, oh, this is perfect. But I think it was maybe from like CarMax or something, and they were going to pay me more, and they had the car that I wanted. It was used. They were going to have to ship it. I think also I would have had to pay for shipping. It was going to cost like $500 or $600 for that. It just wasn't really working out. Like, everything wasn't falling into place. When God provides something, a lot of times, yes, you do have to work for it, but sometimes it will like fall into place, and everything wasn't falling into place with that car. So eventually I saw another car, and I said, okay, I really think I like this car. I went to the place, I viewed the car. Basically, I'm driving around, I'm over here talking to the guy, and I'm like, the guy at the car dealership, and I'm like, well, I don't know. I plan on having a family next year. Girl, you ain't got no man to have a family. What you talking about? So I was just trying to make up all of these different, thinking about stuff that don't even matter. Like, why are you even thinking about this stuff? But anyway, eventually I end up getting that car on like November 3rd or November 4th. Now, remember, I had this dream on October 26th or so. And on November 3rd or November 4th, I drive off the lot with a new car. The thing about it is, like, the car that I saw in my dream, this is the exact car, the exact color. This is the I did not put not $1, not one penny down because I had equity. They gave me so much for my car that I didn't owe anything for the car. I didn't have to pay until the next month. My car note stayed exactly the same as what it was for my other car. Now, the downside is, of course, yes, now I have to pay more years because I signed another financing loan. But, beyond that, everything else kind of like fell into place. The car itself was really good condition. It had less miles on it than my car had, and I only had about the Nissan Versa. I had probably about, I think, 27,000 miles on it from the 3 years that I had it. And this car only had like 22,000 miles on it. It was like, it was used, but it was just a really good car. And everything just kind of aligned, everything kind of worked out the way it was supposed to. And I was able to drive off the lot with this car. And so, like, what I got from like the whole situation, like, this is where I say, like, don't fall for the counterfeit. Because when God showed me that, I had not even spoken to this guy in the last few weeks, maybe even possibly a month. I hadn't spoken to him. And then the enemy knows, and so all of a sudden I wake up from a dream that, and I didn't tell anyone about this. I didn't tell him about it. I didn't tell anyone about this dream that I had, because I had literally just woke up, and I see a message of the same exact car that I'm looking for. And the only difference was that it was gray instead of black. And I really wanted black. But like I said, if the Lord want to provide me a car, then I'm willing to settle for, if you want to provide it through somebody else and bless me, yes, Lord, I will take whatever color they give me. So, don't get me wrong on that. But I just felt like it wasn't necessarily the blessing from God, and God allowed me to kind of see for myself by going through and asking him the questions. He's getting angry. That's a red flag. He's not want to answer my questions. That's another red flag. He wrote the loans for this before, so he knows how to do this, and he knows I don't know how to do it. That's another red flag. Am I going to go to work and come home and my car is not going to be there? And then going through the previous situations I have been through that I talk about on some of my other videos, I was really kind of, on guard and kind of trying to use wise decision making and discernment, because I didn't want to fall into having someone else control me in that way. And so, when everything, like I said, everything worked out with the car that the Lord provided for me. Yes, I do have a payment, but and I know that people say, God doesn't want us to owe anything, so you should just buy the car outright. But God also knows where we are, and he knows, what we can handle. And this is what works for me. This is what I could handle. And this is what I was able to afford at the time. And he's provided for me to pay that all of this time. So then that was like, basically like where I almost settled for the counterfeit. Because, somebody's offer you a free car and you get to keep your car. That sounds pretty good. I was like, Lord, is this you? Or no? I don't hear anything. Okay. But I had to have a lot of conversations with the Lord in them few hours while I was trying to decide if I was going to accept this car from him. And, just be patient and wait on the Lord. And then also have discernment and be wise with your decisions. Because I have told people about, this particular story when we get in the conversation about different stuff or whatever. Over the years, I've kind of told some people about this story, and they're like, "Ooh, I would have took that car. I don't even care. I would just took it, and then I would have been driving a new car, and I ain't got to talk to him and all." And it's like, well, if when I get back to talking about him, you'll see why another reason why I did not take the car. So anyway, and getting back to him, so we don't talk for the next, I believe, year or so, because after I didn't accept the car, he was mad. I didn't call him, he didn't call me or whatever. So I believe, no, it wasn't even a year, it was a few months. So a few months passed by, and it's like close to my birthday, and he ends up calling me out the blue. And he's like, I miss you. I really want to be with you. Like, I really want us to, court, date basically until we are, start planning our wedding and just things like that. Like, I really want to be with you. Like, I wanted to buy the car for you to, basically take care of you and things like that. And so I'm like, I don't know. So we're kind of like conversating or whatever. So we get ready to meet. Nothing works out for us to be able to meet. Every time that we're trying to meet, it's like he wants me to come to his house. He wants me to ride with him. I meet at the location that he wants to meet at. He doesn't want to come. It was just a lot of stuff that was happening. He tells me a location. I don't want to come. So it was just like we kept like not being able to meet up. And so that happens for like a little, a while or whatever, where we're just kind of, and I'm, this is in between me working. I'm working trips, so I'm in and out here and there. If you haven't seen my other videos, I'm a flight attendant, and so I'm not here like every day in town, and so this is kind of happening like in and out while I'm in town. And so eventually we end up, just kind of, we have a conversation. We have a few conversations because we would talk really in depth or whatever. But then this is where it comes out, like what he actually was wanting in return for the car. And so, because this car, I mean, the car was like 26,000. And then if you pay cash, then they give you a large discount or whatever, on the car or whatever. But so anyway, he paid cash for it. He got it for cheaper, whatever. He ended up selling the car later, but it was fine. But anyway, so I lost my train of thought. And I don't know what is going on with this window, but I'm sitting by a window and it's like a huge field, and I keep hearing like crackling, like a bug or something is over here. Anyway, so it just doesn't work out for us to meet up. And so we're talking on the phone, and he's basically, he does come out and say like, he was like, oh, well, I can help you from, maybe we can just, this time we can talk as friends, and then I can help you, if you want help with finding a car, if you want help, like, financially or whatever, to like do that, then I can help you with that. And I said, I already got the car. And he was like, what, you did? And now, mind you, this is a few months later. I got the car that same week, a couple of days after all this situation happened with him. And so he's like, oh, I didn't know you got the car. So then he's like, well, he's like, well, I'll pay your car note for, he said he'll pay like so many thousand on my car note or something like that. And so I'm like, okay, that sounds good. Again, Lord, is this you? Okay. So yeah, I had to have a conversation with God again, because I was like, Lord, sounds pretty good. You know what I'm saying? He's saying pay like about 6 months, 3, 4. I don't know how many. It was somewhere from 3 to 6 months worth of my car note. I'm like, sound pretty good, Lord. Can I? Yeah, it didn't work out. The Lord didn't approve of that. So anyway, the way that I found out, God didn't necessarily say no. And I don't know if you know, like if you heard like an audible voice or whatever. Sometimes I hear audible voice. Sometimes it's just like annoying, or I don't know how to explain it. Anyway, God didn't say no, but he showed me again. And so what he showed me is, while we were talking on the phone, I was talking to him, and he was saying, he basically brought up, we brought up the conversation about sex. And I've been abstinent for, at the time, I think it was about 8 years. And so we somehow got on the conversation of sex. And I was just like, well, I don't remember the whole conversation, but basically the gist of the conversation was, he was like, basically when he said he was going to pay my car note, I'm like, what are you wanting in return? He's like, oh, I don't want anything. I care for you. I want to be with you, blah, blah. Well, it comes out that it's like, well, if we're courting and we're going to get married, next year or later this year or whatever, then we should be able to have sex. And I was like, no, like I already told you that I'm abstinent. we've already discussed this in depth. I've already told you that I'm not settling for that. I don't care if you buy me a car. I don't care if you buy me a house. I don't care if you pay my bills. You're offering to do that. I'm not asking you for that. And I don't want you to do that thinking that you're going to get me to have sex with you, because like that's not what I'm doing this for. You know what I'm saying? And I told him I'm saving myself for marriage. So I guess he thought by telling me that he was wanting to marry me and stuff that I would be willing to give it up because, oh, we're courting. Now we can go ahead and have sex. No, we can't. We can have sex when we're married. And so also in the conversations, I was sitting on the bed and it was a vision like revealed to me of a hand coming out from a tree. It was dark and it was a hand coming out from a tree with the apple. And the apple was the money that he was offering me, and the car and the money and all of that stuff. And I saw this like vision and I was just like, as he was talking, I was just like, yeah, like I could see how he was trying to control me with money. And I was just like, no, like this is not going to work. So eventually, we stopped talking again because, like I said, it wasn't working out. And I basically just told him, like, no, like you can't buy me. That's basically, it's another form of selling my body. It's another form of prostitution, really, but maybe on a higher level. So after that, I basically let him know, like, this is not going to work again because basically now I'm seeing like what you really were wanting. So I'm happy that I didn't accept the car, but then I'm also happy that I didn't accept the money to pay for my car note for a few months. But anyway, so we stopped talking. I kind of just, I'm like, I'm over it. I'm done. And so that was another, basically another form of like, let me tell you this. So then then we stopped talking for a while, maybe about a year or so. And then he reached out to me again, same spiel. Oh, I want to be with you. I feel like you ran away from me and I really want to be with you. I'm really serious this time, blah, blah, blah. We end up, this time, we actually get to meet. And when I meet up with him, it was like I saw beyond the veil. It was like his heart was not good. He was very selfish, very self-centered, very just, arrogant. He just really didn't care for people. Like his heart was not a heart of God. His heart didn't love people. It didn't love it was just all about him and what like he could get and things like that. And so I feel like God kind of allowed me to see that because, of course, like I had kept trying to, oh, well, let's see if it, whatever. And it's like sometimes God allows us to see it. And so I feel like it was a kind of a twofold situation because not only was there, the car situation, which was, a counterfeit that I almost accepted because it sounds great. I just had a dream that the Lord said I'm going to get a car within the next week. And then now all of a sudden I wake up and he says, oh, I have this car for you. And I'm willing to buy it for you. You don't have to pay me anything and you can have the car and keep your car too. I mean, that sounds like a wonderful deal, doesn't it? You know what I'm saying? And then when he came and said, oh, I'll pay some of your car note. And I'm like, okay, I'm trying to get a place. I'm trying, do all this. So it's like, oh, that would help me with that. Then there's the situation of me talking to him. And in the months prior, I did not see this part of him. It was all very like, you know, it was a nice happy encounters and he seemed like a nice guy on the outside and stuff, but then like as time went on and as this situation came about, it revealed who he really was. It revealed, that this is not the person who I would want as a husband, just because he seems nice on the outside. He seemed like he had it together. He seemed like he had a good, job and he had a good head on his shoulders. But then like when you really get to the heart and you really start seeing like who he is as a person and what he thinks of other people, I love people. God calls us to love people, to, do life together, to fellowship and stuff. And like everything was just all about him. And so that also was like another way of being a counterfeit, because it was just like he looked the part and he almost seemed the part to where we were in conversation about actually, getting married and things like that. But as time went on and I started to see who he really was, I was like, this is not what God has for me. And so he ended up being a counterfeit. And so anyway, that was, basically that's why I um, am doing this message of like, don't fall for the counterfeit, because sometimes especially whenever God shows us something or tells us something, a lot of times we're like, ooh, this sounds good. Like it, the enemy will give you something that's like very similar to it, and he'll put it out there as if it might look better, it might sound better. I actually, when I was in Atlanta and I was modeling and acting and doing marketing and stuff like that, I actually kind of was trained a little bit in that area, because there were so many modeling and acting agencies that I applied for, and they were saying, oh, I had to go through so many counterfeits to actually get to the real gigs, the real stuff. And I actually fell for a few counterfeits because I thought it was the real thing, because it looked like it was good. But then, as I feel like that was God kind of training me and teaching me for moments like this later on in life, because, even though I got bamboozled on some of those, it was like when it came to something like this, it helped me to kind of be more wise about it and use more discernment to say, okay, something about this doesn't sound right. Lord, what, can I accept this? And and I actually prayed and I actually sat on it and I actually thought about it and I actually, took it to the Lord, instead of just being like, oh, this sounds good, let me go for this. Because a lot of times that's what we do. And that's how we end up falling for counterfeits. You don't want to accept a counterfeit, even if it was the car. Think about how horrible that could have been if I would have accepted that car from him. And now I got to go through all of this strife and everything else because I accepted this car. And now I'm tied to this man because my name on it, his name on it, whatever the case could have been. And then also, if I would have gotten into a serious relationship with him, like marriage, and then now I'm married to him, and now have to figure out how to make it work so that we don't divorce and stuff. And so it's just very important to really pray on whenever, if God shows you something, don't fall for the counterfeit. Don't settle for the counterfeit, because sometimes we can get tired of waiting. We can feel like, oh, this is good enough. No, like the enemy will come and he will make something that looks comparable to what God has promised you. But wait on the Lord. Wait on what he has said that he is going to give you, because it's not going to come with all the sorrow and all the drama and all the headache that's going to come with what the enemy has given you. Taking it back to the beginning of the video, when I talk about Adam and Eve and them eating the fruit, had they never ate from the tree, that tree that God told them not to eat from, we would not be in the world we are in today. We would be in a beautiful garden, living, thriving, just not dealing with all of the wickedness and things that are going on in the world today, had they not made that choice to fall for the counterfeit, or to settle for the counterfeit, thinking that God was holding something back from them. And so definitely just pray about it, fast about it, and just really seek God. If you're challenged with anything, just really seek the Lord on it, and don't rush into it, because that's a lot of times how people get caught up. It's like rushing into a decision. Like really sit. If that decision doesn't last a day or 2 days or however long it is that you're trying to think about it, I mean, don't go outrageous with it. But if it's, like, let me think about it. Like the guy at the car dealership, he wouldn't let me think about it. He wasn't trying to give me time. He said, oh, you gotta do it now or it's going to be gone. Where is it going? Like, it's the car at the car dealership. If somebody else get it, then that is not meant for me. What's meant for me is for me. And so don't allow the enemy to rush you. Don't allow your emotions and your feelings to rush you, but really pray and ask God, and just don't settle for the counterfeit. That's all I really got to say. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. I hope that you got something from this video. Please come back and watch more videos, like, comment, and subscribe. And this video actually will have another part or two with it, so look for that. I do have other things I'll talk about with Don't Settle for the Counterfeit, but I wanted to make this one where it wasn't as long, and so I'm going to break it up into different videos. But yes, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you got some from it. Okay. Don't settle for the counterfeit. Wait on the Lord. All right. Bye, love.